Hey, y'all, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and this is the first shop talk for the season where we discuss podcasting with vets. Today I'm sitting down with Ken from the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, aka ODPH. We're going to be talking about how it started, how he found his voice, and how podcasting has changed from the early days to now. We'll talk about discovery, the role of video, and clean editing that still feels like a human. There's plenty here for both podcasters and podcast listeners. Ken, thank you so much for joining me today.
Frank, this is an exciting time. I mean, we've known each other in the podcast community for years. I have
Yeah.
been listening to Geek Freaks all the time. I mean, shout out to Kevin and shout out to our mutual associate, Mr. Thomas Craig, one of our favorite reviewers at Nerd Initiative. So definitely
Yeah.
excited to talk to you, though. Like I say, it's been a long time overdue.
I know there are a lot of podcasters that are kind of in that aura that like started off in the Twitter groups
Yep.
back in the day and things have
Oh
evolved so
man,
much since then.
it's a wild time. Like to think from then to now, and like how things have changed, and just looking back, and it's just. It's a journey. Like I use that phrase
Yeah,
a lot, but it truly is. Like when you're on the, content creating side of things.
it is. You guys started back in 2017, and what was that first initial like niche that you guys wanted to capture with your show?
Well, it was funny because we had originally talked about doing it in 2015.
Okay.
Myself and if you are a long time ODPH listener, you know who Josh Royce is, aka Sound Guy Galore, JR. And we were kind of contemplating it for a while, and I had been wanting to do something in this vein for a while. Unfortunately, though, life kind of took a detour. My dad unfortunately got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer,
Mm.
and life stops for family
Yeah.
in that situation. And he ultimately lost his battle with that. So when it came time to kind of throw the idea back around, uh, Jay was one of the guys who's like, "Yo, like, let's get back on the horse and let's do this." And I'm like, "All right," and because you're around people that were kind of debating, if like everybody says they want to be a podcaster until they
Yeah.
got to actually do work. And I
Yeah.
think you have to find like the true people that are in it. And Jay was one, along with somebody that you know very well. His name is Josh Allen. No, he's not the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills. Hashtag he was first. He came on board along with JR right after, and you know him now as Padawan Jay. And we had decided that we wanted to, get back on this and kind of think what we wanted to do. JR was always a big sports guy. Pad and I are both big sports fans and also entertainment fans. And we were thinking about like, what would be a great way to do this. And we originally were thinking about doing our show as an hour-long show. First half would be sports, the other half would be entertainment. And we really thought about, what would be a name to stick out because I mean, honestly, as wild as is at the time, there was only like a couple million podcasts, and I know that's kind of like a throwaway number because right
Yeah.
now I believe the stat is somewhere over 4 million
Yeah, the
worldwide.
pandemic messed it up.
Yeah, so like everything kind of went a little crazy, but like at that time too, we were thinking about something to stand out. And one thing is when we were kind of kicking around names, we were thinking about something like with my dad because my dad knew everybody in the show and like he was really like, this is what you should do. You love doing this stuff. You really love. So he was always known for throwing, if you are familiar with the game craps at the casinos, a
Mhm.
hard eight, but you also know it as an ocho duro. Now, could he throw this on command? No. Could he throw this at the most clutch time possible? Yes. And I didn't believe it until I actually went out to Vegas and saw this firsthand at multiple places. So we thought, okay, this would be kind of a unique way to do this, kind of give an honor because I guarantee you no other podcast is going to have this name in their title. And then you factor in it's going to be a multiple show. We're talking a parlay because it's
Mhm.
multiple bets, to relay that in, and then it's an hours. But I'm like, that is the longest name you're ever going to say, and people are going to be like, what? So that's why we just conveniently called it the ODPH. And then we hit the ground running. To be honest with you, granted, this might be a shock for some listeners, but we did not have Anchor and Spotify creators back in the start of this. This is actually go out and buy equipment. And
Mhm.
I think that kind of really put things in perspective too, because if you're going to spend an investment like this, you really got to put your best foot forward. And we did, and we rehearsed. There's about 6 episodes that'll never see the light of day. I don't even know where they are right now to kind of find our voice. And then Finally, like I think I just threw down like we're releasing this Memorial Day of 2027, or 2017 rather. I'm sorry, and like win, lose or draw, we're putting it out because there's no time like the present. Like if we keep saying we're gonna wait till it's perfect, it's never gonna air. And then we did, and I guess they say the rest is history, but what a history it's been.
Yeah. Let's talk about that first episode compared to today, because that's one thing I struggle with pretty frequently. And I've brought it to some of our listeners, like, what do you guys think? And they voted to keep them in. I would love to delete like the first 50 episodes of Geek Freaks just because the audio is awful. We were literally circled around, one of those Blue Yeti mics with
Yeah.
all of us sitting at different
Oh my
distances.
God, yes. I know that situation all too well, man. Oh man.
So, how does that first episode look compared to today's episodes?
It is day and night, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, because we didn't really know what we were doing. And I've kept them in. I really want everybody, if you're willing to go back over the 800 episodes plus that we have done and to go hear those, if you can find them on certain podcast platforms, I keep them in because I always want to remember this is where we started. And that first
Yeah.
episode is not a perfect product by any stretch of the imagination. It
Mhm.
really isn't. But it reminds me when I go back occasionally, and granted, I haven't listened to it in a while, but it reminds me of like why I wanted to do it and
Yeah.
why I wanted to create content and like to actually do it and put it out. And, it kind of serves as a benchmark, even like when you go through these creator lulls that, like burnout happens. And especially like the larger your show gets, it's more like, where are we going? What are we doing? And for that episode, like I always, it holds a very sentimental place because it just reminds me of like, this is why I wanted to do this in the first place. So I keep all it in wherever you can find it. And granted, there's some reasons if you can't find it on certain providers, it is what it is. But I have my copy saved and I listen to it occasionally. And it's a day and night difference. Like I mean, now as weird as this sounds, Sound Guy Galore JR has left the show.
Mhm.
We're on great terms though. It's not like
Yeah.
anything wrong. It's just, he had a lot of things positively change in life, and it took him in a different direction. But he's still a friend. When I catch up with him, he'll comment about the show every now and then, about the sports things. But like to think now where it is, Pat and I can come in and literally hit record, and it's so natural that we
Yeah.
just go. And to think like where we started and we'd be so nervous about saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. Now it's just like so secondhand that, we just go and then edits are quick and away it is.
There is something that's it's kind of maybe nostalgia just hearing the idea of being nervous on mic, and nowadays it's bread and butter. And
Yeah.
so, is there anything today that still kind of gets you a little bit nervous? Maybe you're talking to a certain guest or something like that that's like, oh, a little tight.
Always. I
Yeah.
think it's just reminding yourself when you get to a level, not, I hope this doesn't come out like braggadocious or anything because it's
No,
really,
no, it's
but
experience, not necessarily, yeah,
yeah.
braggadocious.
But it's when you get to a certain level and you get creators that reach out and you get people that you never thought you would ever talk to that say like, "Hey,
Mhm.
I want to come on your show." There's always that bit of nervousness. And still to this day, but that's the exciting part. I think if
Yeah,
it becomes so mundane that you don't like it's just like, "Oh, this is another day." Like
yeah,
you lose the interest. But like I still get excited when I get emails from people saying they want to come on the show, and especially if it's like somebody that I never thought in a million years would want to,
mhm.
and they're the ones reaching out. It's not like the other way around, which is like I remember back in a few years ago, like we'd have to beg, borrow, and plead for people to come on, and now we're the
Yeah,
ones having people kicking down the door and like wanting to come on, and we're the ones that have to say no because whatever reason. And it's like it's wild to think, but I never lose that excitement. I think if you do, you lose what's really fun about content creating because there should always be that little bit of nervousness, that little bit of anxiousness,
yeah,
because you're going to put this out and you want to have the best conversation possible and you want to do it for the right reasons too, and especially have them get out and say something. Like I said, one of the coolest moments that is never on camera was a couple years ago at New York Comic Con. And Scott Snyder, who is arguably one of the biggest writers in all of comics, I
Hmm.
had just came on the ODPH for the first time, and we had a great interview. And he's signing at the Comixology booth with Jock, who fantastic artist. And we're in line, and I'm like, "Hey, Scott," and he's like, "Hey, Ken, what's going on?" And he just goes over to Jock. He goes, "By the way, he has a fantastic podcast. You need to check it out."
Yeah.
Like that
Feels
moment, it
good.
was like I'm going like, yes, yes, I think I do. Yes, and Jock was like, "Oh, take a listen," and and we got a chance to interview him a while back too, and like but like those moments, you never know when people are going to hear it, but when you get cosigns like that from creators, and you get your names passed around for the right reasons, not being the
Hmm.
clickbait ones, not being whatever the case is, like people know that you'll have an honest conversation with them, and to have that kind of reputation, that's what makes it worth. But to go back to the original point, yeah, you still get excited about that. And I
Yeah.
hope I never lose that feeling, because if I do, I don't want to do this anymore.
There's a real high that comes from it, I've noticed, especially when it's a guest that, there's like a personal goal of mine, I'll say.
Yeah.
And like beforehand, anxious, anxious. And then right after, as soon as I'm done and they leave the call, or whatever, the amount of exuberance that I feel like that went well, baby.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain like how good that feels, like nailed it. So yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, no, it's hard, but man, it's the best feeling though. Like when
Yeah.
you have like the dreams. Like I said, when you all start out with this, like I think everybody wants to be, the next Joe Rogan to a degree
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
popularity. The
Right, right,
next,
right, right.
I
Yeah.
would say now the Kelsey brothers, and what they're doing.
There we go.
And let's be honest, I mean, it's not going to happen for everybody. Like that's a lottery ticket right there. But to go out there and get those experiences, like I say, God forbid this ends tomorrow for whatever reason. I
Hmm.
walk away happy, and I walk away knowing like there's no regrets, everything's on the table, and I can look back and say I got to do these experiences that few people can say they did, and it went
Yeah.
well. That's the stuff I'm going to take away with me.
When I talk to new podcasters, guys, boy, there's so many different expectations when you first start out podcasting. A lot of them are like, well, yeah, I'd like to be, the next Joe Rogan, we'll say, and I say that's like picking up a guitar and saying I'm going to be the new Aerosmith.
Yep.
Just be happy if you could play local gigs, and if you could play local gigs, maybe pay a couple bills, maybe get a little bit of scratch, or one of the best feelings in the world is somebody notices you or something from your show. Be happy with that. If Aerosmith comes along, congratulations, you got struck by lightning twice. But look for those local gigs first,
Oh,
because that's hard.
absolutely. No, I think that's too, because I think everybody, going back to something I think originally said, everybody thinks they're a content creator until it's time to make content, and
Yeah,
then they don't realize
well
it's
said.
work. I mean, there's a
Yes.
lot of work involved in this, and people don't realize it. Everybody just goes, "Oh, well, somebody has a microphone and they're going to talk." And I remember talking to one podcast when they were starting out, like they were asking me for advice, and I was like, "Yeah, you need to do this." And they're like, "Well, I want to set up the Patreon. I want to set up." I'm like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
you don't have an audience.
Hmm.
You need to pump brakes on thinking Patreon." But if your goal is all monetary, I'm sorry, like you're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, there's a lot of times you're not going to make money. Like if you do make a decent amount on Patreon, that's even the cherry on the sundae.
Yeah.
But to do this just for that monetary thing, that's why you're going to burn out. I believe the stat is still every podcast that starts, if you make it past 12 episodes, you're going to make it.
Hmm.
Everybody else pod fades right around that time because they're not making money or they don't meet their expectations.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, as crazy as that is, that's probably the most accurate thing. That you have to be going in there and be happy if you have one listener, let alone thousands or millions, or whatever the case is.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever stop to think about those early days, like your first episode when you put it out and you're like, oh my God, it's actually on Apple Podcasts now. And then you check, I was checking those stats every
Yeah.
day. I was like, oh man, we got 10 listeners. And to think back is like, that is something I need to reflect on a little bit more often. Like, man, those 10 listeners really made me feel good.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I remember checking our stats out when it came out, and we did very well for that. And I was like, man, like we've made it, and
Yeah.
then we came across a time like we couldn't do it for a week, and like we saw a little dip, and I know certain members of the team thought the sky was falling, and I'm like, no, but we need to be consistent, and that's something that's like a key ingredient of doing content. But I remember like I printed out that first month and I was like I kept looking at it and like, okay, what can we do better? What can we and you start thinking that like, when you have initial success, like yeah, it's a new shiny toy, but there's
Yeah.
other toys coming out after you. It's like what's gonna make you stand out? And it's just maintaining the grind and don't worry about the numbers as much. Like I know some people are very hung up on it. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna tell anybody there's a right or wrong way, but I will just say like you'll get more out of this if you don't base it on a monetary aspect or a popularity aspect. Like you want to do it for the
Hmm.
right reasons. And I've always been somebody that says if you put it out in the world, if it's good enough, people will find it. And they do.
Right.
And I mean, you think about like 8+ years later, we're still doing this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is a testament, just that alone, and the fact that you still have some of the original co-hosts and stuff like that, because it becomes a job, and I don't want to say that there's a right or wrong way to do it, but I feel like that passion, it becomes a job whether you like it or not, and yeah, so much of it is marketing and stuff like that. There's more than just I'm gonna
Oh,
talk
yeah.
behind a microphone and it's gonna be good, you know.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you have to be your own cheerleader, but you have to do it the right way. Like that's the thing about it that you learn, and you have to network. You have to granted, it's a different time than when you and I were starting out, as
Yeah.
far as like podcast community, I guess is probably the nicest way to put it. Um, but at that time is just getting your name out and networking and being the right thing, like not spamming your links on every single feed you see, or
Yeah.
like tagging yourself and like nine other random podcasts to your episode. Like those kind of mistakes that I've seen many, many podcasts do, and that's why they come and go. And the real ones have stayed around, but they've done it the right way. And that's when things that, networking, like when, you and I first met up, and doing things the right way and supporting in that manner. Like that's the stuff that really pays off. And that's why we're still doing this while other ones are, somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't keep track about anybody I don't really contact with. So
Yeah, so back in the early days, there was a big thing, a lot of it was on Twitter, I feel like,
yeah,
and there
podcast
were
Twitter.
the
Oh,
yeah.
the days. I miss those days.
Yeah, it was scrappier, There was a thing to it where, and there was kind of like I remember like, okay, in the middle of the night, I'll retweet everybody I can, so it doesn't bog down my feed too much, but also I want to show support, so it's kind of this hard mix to find. And now I feel like, no, what support looks like is shouting out somebody for something that's actually tangible in their show, and that one mention is more valuable than me retweeting a show every week, I think, and I know I feel it when somebody else does it. So I think that the we have shifted from this thing where we're just like trying to scrap for any little listen we can get to nowadays when things are a little bit more authentic. It might be a luxury of having a bigger audience now, but like everything's a little bit more authentic and it's a little bit more face to face, and people are turned off by what feels like retweet bots and are now more attracted to people who are more earnest about their opinions, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think now, like when we started, I mean, there was a larger hunger,
Hmm.
like you alluded to. Like I think there was more passion about doing this and more of like, a more open ceiling to go, like the sky's the limit, so to speak. But we were fortunate enough, and like, and a lot of our, fellow podcasters at that time, you get around groups that have the same kind of mindset, the same kind of
Yeah.
drive, and that inspires you to do it. And then when you start getting into the retweet thing, it's always a slippery slope because as great as you think it is, in hindsight, it's really not. Like if
Yeah.
you want to shout somebody out, by all means do it. And if you want to retweet them, you can go ahead. But when you start getting into groups that are just doing the retweets, it doesn't pay off as much because when you start doing the stats, like do an episode you don't do that with to one that you do and see, like, do you experience thousands of more downloads, And I think just at that time, everybody was so eager to get involved that, yeah, you lose hindsight of it, but then you see about who's really supporting and who's not. And like nowadays, forget about it. Like it's just occasionally that's the way to go. But I mean, podcast Twitter has changed so much. Like I miss the old days about that. Like that was to me like that was the golden era of
Yeah.
podcasting because there was just such a good group of shows out at that time, and everybody was so not so much about retweets, but about supporting and interacting and really
Right.
building, as hashtag Podern family, like in that.
Yes. Oh man. Just hearing that again. Oh, that felt good to hear again.
Yeah, I mean, but it's true though. Like
Yeah.
I've sat there and talked with, other podcasts like, So Wizard, shout out to Joey and the team there. And
Yeah, classic.
yeah, and Hopskeeks News and Matt and Lauren and the team there. And it's like we all kind of kick back a little bit and be like, yeah, you remember how it used to be like this? And it's like, yeah. And then things fall apart with podcasters doing different things. And I think everybody's trying to, it's a grind. And it's
Yes.
something that I think just people don't realize. But you have to be your biggest cheerleader, but you have to also, promote yourself the right way. And if you want to be a member of the community, be a member of the community. If you're just going in to follow, then unfollow, like, that's always a bad look, no matter
Yeah.
who you are. And, then people wonder like, oh, well, they don't support me. Well, why would they? You just did it to boost your numbers, in my opinion,
Yeah.
but but you think about that, with that grind and just that era and just the
Yeah.
retweets. Like it's better to shout out on a show and have that genuine interaction, like commenting about something that was in a show and doing that and interacting. That gets you so much further than a simple retweet that'll get buried on a feed.
Yeah. And you know what, guys? I know some things you kind of feel there's a value to it being performative in a weird way that I don't necessarily like even saying out loud, but I think it's so much more important to DM the person and say like, "Hey, I really like your art on this new episode. Like you did a really good
Yep.
job with this new art or something like that." You're gonna feel that person. You're gonna feel them for weeks, and you're gonna feel good about sharing some real. Because think about how it would be like to get that. So, you don't have to post everything in public. Just get a hold of other podcasters and start building those communities. Because, like, yeah, you're throwing out some names that have like they've been around forever. It feels like like, and I know when they put something out metalcore, like there's so many good ones.
Yep.
Like it's gonna be good
General
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean that's the whole thing. Like, and you could tell like those names are the ones that stand out, and they're the real ones, that really understand the game. If
Hmm.
you want to put it in that perspective, like they understand about building that community, building those connections, building that one-on-one with your fellow content creators and the audience, and that's why they're doing great things, and other ones are gone,
Yeah,
and doing other things. Like I say, everybody's got their own different journey, but you think about like the ones that we were with, like shout out to Julio and the Contrarians, and the Pint and 3FN and 30 and Nerdy and all those guys. Like I say, everybody's doing different things, but they all have understood about the community aspect of things, and that's
yeah,
and that's something that's what carries them still through, and that's why you're seeing a lot of the that class of podcasters are still doing great things today.
yeah, yeah. Keep chugging along. Uh, Talking about podcasting over the years, one of the things that has really grown is video podcasting.
Yeah.
What do you think about the shift to video, and do you think that we're going to start seeing audio slip behind?
We won't see audio slip behind. Audio will be here till the end of time.
Mhm.
Will it be as popular? Debatable. I think what we experienced is with everything that went down in 2020, that there was a shift to video and people were having to use it, so people became more comfortable using it. And I think that still plays a fact. But you also take a look at when podcasting is still doing great numbers, for downloads. Like, and the radio hasn't faded away. Like
Yeah,
radio
good
is
point.
still, is still as relevant as it was, however many years ago. So I think that's still there. The video aspect, it's interesting because I think we were forced to go into it a little bit, but it depends on where your heart lies with it. Like I say, I've done Turn a Page for Nerd Initiative, which that has been an experience in itself, and that was me getting in front of the camera, which I don't necessarily love doing, but I will do it. But it was also something I became more comfortable with because I had to do Zoom calls and I
Yeah,
had to, get familiar with that. So granted, there's a different audience for it. Like some people like the visual aspect. They like to see the reactions, like for that.
yeah,
Me, I'm just like, as long as the content's good, I don't care how I consume it. It's kind of like you think about it in the comic terms. Like the print comic will be here till the end. No question about it. Is a digital another way to do it? Yeah. Can you love both? Absolutely.
yeah,
But it depends on what your personal preference is. But as long as you give that option to the consumer or the audience, you've covered the bases. But yeah, video, I don't know, video has always been a tricky thing with me because people get hung up on different things. Like, oh, how's my lighting? How's my, audio on this aspect? Like, and then trying to chop it up to shorts and like it's a different process. But as long as you're still connecting with the audience, I think it serves a purpose. I mean, like, granted, I'm not in love with it personally, but I do it, and I've now became very, very comfortable doing it. Um, but like I say, I don't think it's gonna, video might have killed the radio star, so to speak, but the radio's still going. So that's kind of
Yeah.
where I look at things like that.
You brought up a really good point that reminds me of my early days as well. The idea of like, I don't really want to be on video, but you feel like you're forced into it because it's like there was a time we used to use a website called, I think it was called headliner.app or whatever, it's Headliner,
Yep.
where
Yep.
you'd make audiograms. Audiograms, nobody does those anymore. That's just not a
No.
thing,
No, no. Yeah.
So you have to do video.
Well, but I think it's something with creating content. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I
Well
think
said.
that if you want to grow, you have to push yourself in different directions. Like if you just stayed in your lane and that's all you wanted to do, like if I just wanted to do podcasting, I could have stayed there and that's fine. Like I say,
Mhm.
that's your journey. Uh, high five, like perfect. But if you really want to push yourself in this era of content, you kind of have to step outside the box a little bit. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But it's better to sit there, try and fail, than sit on the sidelines and always wonder, what about this? What about this? Like I always I kind of refer to like, when we got 5 years into this in 2022, I sat with Pad and kind of went like, what's next? Like, what are we doing? Like, we've now hit a 5 year mark, and a lot of our contemporaries have fallen off. And it was, do we keep doing this? Do we try doing video? Do we go to a news site? And it was kind of like a real thought process about it too, because there's a lot of uncertainty there.
Mhm.
And I mean, we ultimately did, and it turned out to be better. It pushed us out of our comfort zone, and it was definitely a challenge to do that, but it was one that I think made us better as creators. That now we're comfortable with being uncomfortable, and we can kind of adapt to when certain things are going on and certain trends. Like, granted, you'll probably never see us doing any dances on TikTok by any stretch of the means, but.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, if there's enough charity donations, maybe like I said, I've always talked about that. I said if we hit oh God, what was it? Like 10,000 for live stream for the cure, like I would do a cosplay or something. And it didn't happen. I mean, granted, we did earn some money, but it didn't happen. But but like I say, in that kind of situation, you just have to learn to adapt and grow. Otherwise, like you'll be in your position and that's where you're gonna stay. Which I mean, if you're happy with that, all like that's perfect. But
Yeah.
we have such a amount of time to do this and do this well that sitting on the sidelines and always wondering what if, I mean, that just doesn't compute. That just
Mhm.
does not register. And it's a matter of getting out and trying it. And if it fails, it fails. Like being comfortable with failure is something we've learned the hard way. Like, not everything has been perfect at the ODPH and even with Nerd Initiative and going there. But you learn to adapt and you take notes and you learn from that experience. And as long as you don't repeat it, it's all the better. Like life's a great teacher. You just got to make sure you pay attention to class.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of Nerd Initiative, what was that process like for you guys? The networks I think is very tempting for new podcasters, and sometimes it's a good place, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're not sure if you should take that jump. So can you kind of explain Nerd Initiative to those listening?
Sure. Nerd Initiative is a collection of journalists, podcasters, and content creators that really want to try pushing the positivity of pop culture. And when we got to that 5 year mark, we just came back from doing press at New York Comic Con. That's kind of our home turf. So if you hear that reference a lot, it's just we're out of upstate New York, so that's the
Yeah.
easiest con for us to get to. One of these years, we're gonna get to San Diego and scare everybody. Hasn't happened yet though, so
Come
folks.
on down. I'll buy your beer when you do. That'd be
So
awesome.
Frank, I'm tracking you down the minute I get to
Hell
there.
yeah.
But it was one of those situations. We got back, we were getting a ton of press opportunities, and just on the podcast alone. And it was kind of the situation of we hit that 5 year mark and it's like, what's next? And if we don't have a future plan, like what is the future?
Mhm.
So we started looking around and I had known shout out to JT. I know it's formerly East Coast Avengers. I'm trying to think what is I think Jay,
He's
I apologize.
Yeah, it was the Bat Cave for a bit there. Now I think he's just doing his own thing.
I think
He's got
it's
his own.
Trendy Talk with JT. But anyway,
Oh,
shout
there
out
we
to
go.
him. Everybody should go listen to him.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jay. And Jay was at Nerd Initiative, and I was kind of asking him a little bit about it. And like at the time, they were going heavy on TikTok. Like that's where they're
Hmm.
getting most of their creators from. But it was an outlet that, I was kind of watching because I'm thinking like, okay, we're doing all this press, like where could this lead? And I want to go somewhere that I could really expand on stuff I was doing. And I met with their owner, Michael Rothman, shout out to Michael, and kind of hashed out like a plan to like kind of slowly start getting involved. And we started seeing some success. And I think the biggest argument we had about is like, well, we already have a brand built. Like, why would we go somewhere else? And it was like, well, in my opinion, like you want to make sure you're still networking. I mean, podcast Twitter, it kind of faded away at this stage. And where else was everybody going to meet creators? Where was everybody going? And granted, I didn't want to be somebody sitting in a Facebook group doing,
Hmm.
you kind of watching that. It's like as far as networking, I do love being
Yeah.
in Facebook groups. I don't want that coming out like that, but it was kind of like for the quote unquote business aspect of it, and it was just kind of like let's see where this door opens, and I was allowed a lot of creative freedom to do some stuff there, and that's where we kind of evolved it to where it is now. Like looking back on, I took over as editor in chief in 2023, and because I laid it out for Michael, like this is what I want to do, this is what I think we can do, and it's led to great success not only for them but for ODPH itself. And it's an interesting experience to say the least. But it's been fun. I've met a lot of great people there. Shout out to Megan from Vigilante Vibes podcast. I know you know Megan.
She's a delight. Yeah.
Megan's amazing. Hops Geeks News, Thomas, Craig.
Thomas. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have a couple Thomases in
Yeah.
Initiative, so I want to emphasize uh who he is, and like the rest of the team there. Like I said, it's been, and now ironically as we're recording, I am actually leaving Nerd Initiative.
Oh,
I'm going.
no.
I have no, well, no, it's all good. It's it's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
That was my
not a
reaction. Sorry.
yeah, no, it's fine. No, everybody thinks no, but it's not bad. There's a couple, but once again, it's a couple opportunities have come across my way that I'm interested in exploring, and it's all good terms. It's nothing bad. Like, it's a great place to be at, and it'll be kind of interesting to see what these new opportunities are lying. But it's also too at this case, like I've done this. It's great, but I still want to find what's next. I still want to go in that route. But like I say, I'd be very excited to see what the future has to go with that. But then again, it goes back to getting that experience, seeing what it does for you, as a content creator, and taking those experiences with you further and growing your brand out. And like I said, Nerd Initiative has been very great with ODPH, and I can't speak. I have nothing bad to say about that time, but it's interesting to see where the future is going to go. But like I say, there's a window of time to do this in. I know one day the mic will be put down for reasons, and not anytime soon. So anybody
Yeah.
that's hoping for the downfall, no, I'm not going there. I'm
Get
soon.
out of here.
Yeah, but it's one of those things like, I know there's a window of time, and I want to try doing a couple things and see where it goes. But
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I think that's really important for people to understand is the community aspect of podcasting, which is I didn't know it was there when I first started, but boy, when you discover it, it's amazing to be a part of. And it's harder and harder to find, it feels like. I'm sure there are the Facebook groups or like maybe even Discords. But please get out there and start trying to find other podcasters. You'll make your show better. If you're
oh,
so if
absolutely.
that's the way you want to look at it, your show will get better by communicating with other podcasters.
Oh my God, I remember when I got brought into a Twitter group. One of the best stories I think of one of our podcast things. Because at the time, like I was much like you agreed, and I can't back that up anymore. Like go out and network and
Mhm.
just interact with shows. Know who you're interacting with too. Like kind of see how they move and do that.
Yeah.
But I remember like we started interacting with a bunch of shows just at random. And then 3 o'clock in the morning, I get added to a Twitter group called Next Wave. And I'm
Yep.
like, I wake up, and I'm waking up and I got like messages and I'm going like, oh my God, did Pad say something? Or like, did I say
Yeah.
something? I'm like freaking out. I'm like, wait, what the hell happened? And I'm like, oh, wait, this is like one of those groups. And sure enough,
Right.
like I think you were in there at the time.
hmm I think it was it Wonder Soul that started that one?
Yes, yes, yes.
There it is.
Yep, yeah. Shout out to him. He's doing things on Twitch. Like we
Yeah.
catch up every now and then, like too.
Good.
So yeah, so he's doing good. Last time we were talking, it's been a couple months, but yeah, he's doing this thing on Twitch. Like yeah, and like just getting those podcasts in there and interacting and building that community. And then, seeing where that journey went and then how it evolved into when Next Wave ended and we wound up spawning into the apocalypse. God, I have to remember all these names.
I know. I'm sure they're on there somewhere. I could probably look them up, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, I have to remember because I mean that was Brian Wayne. Shout out to Brian from Cheers of
Mhm.
Comics when he was doing that, and that was his group, and then that thing blew up and to like that was like the pinnacle, I think, of where we're going with podcast groups. But it was making those connections and being involved, and then I think a lot of things happen in the world that really kind of shifted gears, and it is tough to meet new shows and meet new podcasters or
Yeah.
content creators. Excuse me, because there's a lot that I think are trying to go for the quick buck, if you will. And I think that, they're not ready for like what it all entails. Like I say,
hmm
this has been a 9 to 5 on top of a 9 to 5. But
Yeah.
it's reaped excuse me. It's allergy season, folks, so just bear with me.
Yeah.
It's been one of those situations where by putting in the work, you've seen the work come back and pay off.
Right.
And I think nowadays, I think everybody's got a different mindset of what success is with that. But for me, it was interacting and like I say, waking up to, however many messages everybody shouting out and making those connections that I still have to this day with most of that group, I think is still the next wave group, I think is still doing this. A good
hmm
majority, which is wild to think about because that was 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
think like everybody is still active. Like the majority of shows, like there's some that disappeared, but I would say like if there was 50 in there, I want to say like 35 at least are still doing it, which is insane. But it's an amazing thing too, though.
I pulled it up. We have like alternate reality radio
Oh
as
God, yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. Shout out to Justin.
Pod Nation, that's Alex running Pod Nation.
Oh my
Uh
God, yeah,
yeah, the alien.
yeah. Oh my God, wow, I completely forgot about Pod Nation. Apologies, like personal. Just
Hashtag Pod Nation, man. You got to do the hashtags
oh yes,
too.
that's right. The hashtags, hashtag Podder Family, hashtag Pod Nation.
Oh man, the old days. One of the community things I wanted to throw out there, a good little tale on my side, because we both know Thomas Craig. So Thomas, he asked to join Geek Freaks for an episode, and yeah, sure, come on. We'll find a spot for you, and we're talking, and just clicked well. And then afterwards, he was asking a lot of questions about podcasting, and when you find like, oh, this is an anchor person, like a person who
Yep.
who is the anchor for their show. And I was like, you got to foster those relationships as much as you can because they will feel alone in their own show sometimes if there's that one person who's the editor or the PR guy. And so, he had questions that I kept answering and it just clicked so well. And at a certain point, I was like, hey, man, you want to start a podcast together, you and me? We'll do challenge accept. We never do make a challenge accept on a movie podcast. Not like there's not enough of those, but it was just,
Never have
you
enough.
know,
As long as content's good, it
yeah.
doesn't.
And now we're as thick as thieves. Me and him are texting every day, and he does a lot of our SoCal convention coverage for us, and he's on Geek Freaks all the time now as part of the whole like network stuff, um and it was just because he asked to join the podcast for an episode to just wanted to talk about whatever Superman or whatever, and now. I mean, I'm sitting here talking about how he's about to have a baby and all that thing. It's amazing how that happens. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's crazy. Like, I mean, we had the same experience with us with ODPH, and that was
hmm
we had a mutual friend pop over by the name of Sean Duffy, and big sports guy. And
Yeah.
this is kind of like we were still in that early process of everything. and he came, but he's also big into entertainment stuff too. And he just came and like the four of us just did an episode together and just clicked, and like we knew it clicked, and we were like, after it got done, Sean was like, "Yeah, I'd love to do this again," and I'm like, "Well, why don't you come back next week?" And then hey, if you want to do it again, and suddenly he just became part of the show, and just we
Yeah.
clicked. Like I say, there's still the greatest segment about college football that will never air because somebody forgot to hit record is an inside joke. If you message Padawan Jay about it, he'll just start laughing. But is like but that camaraderie that we had, and that was just something like at that time. And then I mean, Sean's got a million other things going on in life right now too, so shout out to him.
Yeah.
But it's just like yeah, but you find when you click with those people, like I say, that's some of the best moments. I mean, and even with Thomas too. Like I remember when he was asking about Nerd Initiative, and I was like, "Wait,
Yeah.
aren't you with Frank?" Like I said, I'm not stealing talent, and he's like, "No,
Oh
no, it's
yeah.
cool.
No.
I got permission. It's cool." I'm like, "Okay, I'm like, listen, I want to make sure because I'm not." And and then he's always been great with his videos, and I remember San Diego Comic-Con too. He was doing interviews, and like he was so like he's such a natural for it. Like
He
I
really is. Yeah.
yeah, it's just how good he is. Like I don't even think he realizes how good he is.
He does it, and I keep telling him like the thing that because when we go to conventions with him, we joke around like, "Oh, it's Fearless Thomas," because like there's that intrepidation before you go approach the voice of Ash Ketchum, but he's just like right there into it, and it's like, I wish I just had that little bit of, bravery that he has in those moments.
Yeah, he's somebody that like literally you can give a mic to and it's gonna
Yep.
be great. Like that's like he'll ask for a review and he's like, is it cool if I do? I'm like, dude, just do it. Like
Yeah.
there's very rarely I have to ever go like Thomas, this like give him an edit, just because he's such a natural with it. And he's so passionate about like when he's talking, and you can definitely tell like the stuff from San Diego Comic-Con, like he was
Hmm.
so excited to do it, and he's like, is this okay? I'm like, dude, it's perfect. Like
Yeah.
we don't need to worry about that at all. So, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but it's like when you make those connections, like they say, when you start looking back at like the early days and think where you are now, it's like you kind of have to look back and just pause and be grateful for like you're still doing this and you're still on this journey, and everything that you did prior to this has now led you to this moment you're in right now, and that only makes the future more exciting.
Exactly. Exactly. One of the things I think people don't really think about is how much editing can go into a podcast. Over the years, how much editing do you do for your show? Is what I mean to necessarily say. Do
Um,
you guys cut out all the ums and stuff like that? Kind of giving people context. Like a lot of times people will cut out the ums and things, or is it better to feel more natural?
Better and natural. Uh,
Okay.
we we used to we used to be really picky about it. And then I don't remember like I can't remember the exact reason why. But because Pad does all the edits for the show. He
Hmm.
just said, "Nah, keep it in."
Yeah.
He's like he's like if we make it sound too perfect, people are going to think it's not. And just let it be what it's going to be. I mean, granted, if we say something really like that we have to go edit, like we will, like if we miss, say, a date of like when the show's coming out or something like that, yeah, then we do. Like edits don't take as long, but then again, it's just Pad being Pad, and Pad's a machine when it comes to that. Like he'll catch stuff really quick, and he's like, boom, like we do it right then and there. And like I say, usually episodes go up shortly after they're done, but. I would say if it's a Zoom call though, it does take a longer just because you got to take out that long pause between like everything coming across. But
Yeah.
I would say, but that's the only headache you have with a show. Like as long as the guest volume is good, it doesn't take too long. I think that's been the biggest thing is about people and their audio levels.
Hmm.
For the biggest edits, but it doesn't take long. But then again, practice did make perfect, and that's where Pad can go in, or I can go in. I mean, I do some of our edits too, but he does the majority of them, and he can just whip them up like nothing. He's like, okay, got it, got it, got it.
Yeah. And I feel like for different shows, there's different vibes. One of the shows that I edit, literally the host is like, I hate hearing my own ums and stuff like that. But I'm like, so you go back and listen to the episode after it's out? Yeah, of course. She's like, yeah. So then I'm like, okay, then I will do that because I'll make sure to take out every because I appreciate that you are going back to try to improve yourself. And so it's like, if that's something you feel deserves to be changed, that's worth it. Because there are a lot of other podcasters that are like, Frank, it's good. It goes out, and it's like, okay, then that's your show. Is that it's conversational, and it definitely has merit in that sense too. But it's like, I think. for each show has their own vibe, and sometimes it
Yeah.
is taking out all the ums, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I listen back to my own shows. I listen
Yeah.
back because I want to pick up stuff I said or if I did or if I was, just to kind of be a student of the game. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's why I listen to a lot of podcasts. Ironically, I don't listen to that many comic podcasts.
Hmm.
Um, I do listen to some though, some, but I kind of listen to more like movie stuff because I think there's a lot more edits involved in it. So I
Yeah.
tend to gravitate towards that. But it's one of those situations that if you really want to improve yourself, you have to listen to it. And I'm not saying you have to be like narcissistic about it. Like I listened once after a couple days, like after I recorded, so like I'm pretty clear and like what did I like about this? What did I not like about this? And then try improving on the next go around. Because I think if you do that, you'll pick up on things that you didn't realize in the moment, but it'll be in the back of your head that when you say it the next time, it'll come off more clear or you do it better. And like I say, it goes back to the practice makes perfect point, but it's also
Hmm.
listening how other people do it. And there's a lot of shows that I listen to that do it well. There's some that I can't listen to because they didn't do it well. And it is what it is. So, but it's all that learning experience about it, especially with editing. Like I say, you want to make sure somebody is going to listen to your show for the first time in that moment. You got to put your best foot forward. Is this something you stand on? And if it is, stand up for it. Then be proud of it. If it's not, learn from that mistake and come back. Because, the audience, I mean, you're fortunate enough that they're willing to give you their time of day to listen to your content. Like what makes
Yeah.
you so special. But if
Yeah.
you're giving them value in what you're presenting, then that's the key ingredient. But that's also going to be what makes them go, I really like this. I want to come back for more.
Ken, the amount of times I've told young podcasters, respect your audience's time, give them the best. You give them the best that you have because they're giving you their time. The amount of times I've said that to people, yeah, it's important to keep that going forward for sure.
It's crazy, but it's true though, because everybody doesn't realize it. Like everybody gets, I think they get more wound up about downloads because it's
Hmm.
an easy click and it's done. But you're literally asking somebody to take an hour or hour and a half, like, depending on how long the episode is,
Hmm.
to give you their time and attention away from their lives. Like for whatever reason, you're now their source of attention. You want to make sure that you're giving them the best product you can because if you half-ass it, you do whatever, they're going to turn off and they're going to tell other people to turn off. Because why? You wasted their time. Like
Yeah.
there's podcasts I'll get asked about and I'll listen and I'll give them a critique, like an
Hmm.
honest one. And then some get very defensive about it, but it's like, no, like I'm breaking away time from my schedule of my life to give you yours and like that you wanted feedback, this is the feedback. And then you also have to have an open mind to criticism, but you also have to have respect to it as well, because I think some people will hear like, oh well, I want to sound like this show. Well, don't sound like that show, be your own
No.
show.
Yeah.
you know like I'll listen to mine but I listen to other shows because I like their content. I like what they bring. I like the energy from it. But if you're going to sit there and your show opens with 10 minutes, 15 minutes of talking about yourself or the interview that I'm waiting to hear and you bragging about how great it was, I'm already out.
Hmm.
Why
Hmm.
why why do I care? Like, I don't need to hear you take a victory lap. I don't need to hear you say, "Oh, I talked to X, Y, and Z, and oh man, it was great. I loved when I asked them this." Well, why don't I listen to it and then I can make that opinion? Because you might be very proud of that moment, but is it something that's going to give me value? Debatable.
Yeah. Value. That's important. That's an important remembering right there. Um, Looking at some advice you can give to others. Let's say it's somebody who's maybe just starting out or they're in that first crucial 10 episode or 10 or 12 episodes. What is something you'd make sure to tell them so they know going forward to keep going?
Don't worry about everybody else. Worry about your own house.
Amen. Yeah.
Honestly, you need to work on your own craft and make sure it's the best product you can put out. If you start comparing yourself to larger shows, um, you're not going to get anywhere because
Hmm.
you're not building your own foundation. You're renting, and your rent will come due, and you won't be able to pay, and you'll get evicted. Like to kind of put it in very short, sweet terms, you need to really just make the best show you can get it out, talk to other shows, don't spam your links because what's going to happen is if you're interacting with somebody, they're going to check out your show. They're
Yeah.
going to see what you're about. And you need to make sure that your content is the best that you can do at this moment in time. And as long as it is, you've done the job. And that's all you should worry about as you're just starting out. And then if you make it to that 12th episode and you want to duck out, you need to remind yourself of why you're doing this in the first place. Like I still have a note I have in my office of a reminder of why I do this. And when I get in those lulls about like, oh man, I'm feeling this X, Y, and Z, I look at that note and I go, okay. And I get right back to it because I
Yeah.
need to remind myself I did this 8 years ago because I love this and I
Hmm.
wanted to do this. And the reactions and the experiences that I've had, the people I've met through this entire journey, that's what's been worth it. So if I don't make $1 million off this, okay, cool. But do I have $1 million worth of experience? Absolutely, and then some.
Yeah. Now let's look at the advice for somebody who's 200 episodes in. They might be feeling a little bit of that burnout. What do you tell them?
Remind yourself why you did this in the first place.
There you go. Yeah.
Think about why you did this and remind yourself, why you're doing it. Because you're gonna feel burnout. Everybody does. Like I mean, I'll admit, there's days where I'm just like, "Ugh, I don't want to do this. But I will look to that note. I'll look to a reminder. I'll look to an episode I did that I'm really proud of, like as an experience I never got a chance to, and be like, do I want to give this up and throw it away? And that usually reminds me of like why I do this. Because like I say, I don't look at this. I mean, granted, my first note was the amount of money I put into buying equipment for this. And I
Yeah.
said it with a little trash can underneath it, question mark. So that was enough for me at the
Yeah.
time to do it. But, you know, after that, it was kind of like I remind myself I love doing this. I love interacting with fellow fans about stuff that I would be talking about at the workplace, outside, at the quote unquote lunch table, like whatever the case is, like I say, I work at the break room. Yeah, I'm always talking this stuff. So it's like, why not put it out to the masses? Because there's more people there. Like that's what I'm trying to go with the lunchroom thing. But
Hmm.
no matter what, it's something that always reminds me of like, I got this far. Why do I love doing this? And if you can't answer that question, then it's time to bow out. But if
Yeah.
you can remind yourself, like, I do this because I'm a fan. I love talking. This is my DNA. Then you just need to kind of remember that. And it's a tough grind, but you got into this. You've made it 200 episodes. What made you keep going this far? What made you go to 199? What made
Exactly.
you go? What made you go there? And like I say, we've been very fortunate. We've only missed in the entire 8.5 years of ODPH, we've only missed 3 weeks. So Wizard has done it for 10 years plus, and they have not missed 1 week.
Damn.
Like, yeah, it's crazy, but it's crazy. But I often bring up them because I remember they were one of the first shows I watched to see what they did and I liked and what they didn't do and I didn't like. Kind of use that as a benchmark. But it's one of those things that we do this because we love doing it. And granted, I mean, if there's ever a time that we don't want to do this, like we'll just hang it up, But
Yeah.
but like I say, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I think that there's still many more miles to go, and Pat and I will still be doing this, at least once a week. Twice has been a little tough because of life,
Right. Right. Right.
but as long as we're still doing some kind of content, then that's the biggest thing is just remind yourself, make a note or something that will remind yourself of why you want to do this. And if, like I say, if it's monetary, you've already failed. And if it's, popularity, it's like, no, it's like, because if you have consistently 10 listeners, that means 10 people are giving you their time of day
Yeah.
every week to hear you talk. Put that in perspective,
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of that note that's inspiring, I got a pinboard over here with a lot of old school names. Here's one right here. Hold on.
Okay.
This is great for podcasting. Check this out. One of your old school stickers.
Oh, geez. Oh my God. Let's go. The old school ODPH. That is a
Yeah.
collector's item right there. Oh my
I know
God.
I've got the mug or whatever where I put the mug on it every so often too. But yeah, that's one of the old school ones.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I gotta get you a new one though. I mean, granted, we haven't updated the one. I mean, the one that's hanging behind me here.
Yeah.
That's been the one we've kept. I think that's gonna be the permanent one. We don't have to really change that one. But oh my God, I haven't seen that logo in forever. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I love it.
I've got some really good ones for your reference and just so
Oh,
many.
shout out to them.
Yeah.
KT and Odie they're doing big things out in
Yeah, I was actually just DMing her maybe a couple weeks ago at this point, just saying like, I am so incredibly proud of you guys. I remember back in the days when we'd be sharing Deadwood memes together, and now
yeah.
you're interviewing some really amazing people, and that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah, they've blown up so big. I'm so happy for the I haven't talked to them in forever. But I don't think they're on Twitter anymore, so I don't know.
yeah, like, frankly, our Twitter is pretty much automated from Threads. Threads is where we've really found a home, and so like Instagram, sure, but like Threads is like where we're thriving. So it's hard.
Yeah.
Twitter's been tough. Like,
Yeah, no, no, I hear you. Like Twitter, I literally just post a link and go. It's just not been
yeah,
this same. And like the tough thing for us is like we do a lot with the comic book creators, and it's three spots we have to track everybody down with: Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And
yeah,
like it's always a juggling act if we can find everybody. I really like Threads. I just haven't been on it because it's like social media now has been so weird. And like trying to get interaction is tough and trying like genuine interaction, not like, hey, here's my link, read my book.
right, yeah,
But it's just like trying to build that in. Like I say, I know we mentioned earlier, but like Megan from Vigilante Vibes understands like everything there is to about it. And
Mhm.
she's always a great person to follow about like interacting with. And I try jumping in there when I can. It's just like it's such a weird environment there, but I do like Threads. I hope that really blows up. Like it's been interesting thus far about like how they do with the hashtags and getting rid of that and such. But yeah, it's just a matter of like trying to find everybody because, like I said, once podcast Twitter faded away, of all the
Yeah.
things to pod fade, it was podcast Twitter. Uh, what you call it? It's been tough trying to find everybody. Except there's certain shows that'll stay on there till the end of time, and there's certain ones that have gravitated towards other platforms, and it's always the ever changing thing. But it's always great catching up though with those shows. And like I say,
Yeah.
for your reference, is an amazing show too.
Yeah. Yeah, Threads is really fun, and what I've realized over there, like the key to them is as natural as possible. Anything, it's weird to say, TikTok's the same way in a lot of sense, which irritates me. But if you put too much effort into it, it ain't gonna do well. You gotta just like, here's a post to Peacemaker, like, hey, well, I'm watching Peacemaker right now. How dope was that one scene? And that will be what builds your community. And it's like that feels more natural. That feels like what social media was supposed to be in the first place.
Yeah, no, that's something I miss because, like I say, I usually don't see it. Unfortunately, like maybe it's my feed and my algorithm. I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
just like I miss stuff like that. Just like the general interactions. Like I say, those accounts, they're the ones I jump in. At least heart it if I have time, I'll write something. But like I try at
Yeah.
least that because it's just like it's just such a weird landscape these days.
It really is. And it's changed so much over time. Ken, I've got 100 more questions, but I think we probably should wrap it up there. I could go for hours. Thank you so much for joining me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh man, thank you so much. Definitely have to do this again soon sometime, man. This is always
Absolutely.
man, always a pleasure catching up.
Yeah. You guys can follow Ken and ODPH. All the links are in the description. Make sure you guys are clicking around. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.